something that I'm increasingly not just passionate about sharing and talking about, but I actually feel like it's almost critical or crucial for anyone with this understanding or knowledge to convey it to the broader public in a way that leads to some sort of proactive adjustment of our language and our understanding of mental health issues. We live in a cultural context that has more or less convinced people through the language we use with the pharmaceutical industry, the language we use in the medical industry, the language that people like me in the world of psychology use. People have become convinced that the sensations they feel in their body, whether emotions or just feelings or sensations, are some form of disease or disorder or problem or sickness. We are implicitly taught that if we are feeling anxiety, what we call anxiety, if we're feeling what we call depression, if we're feeling what we call panic, for example, that there must be something inherently wrong with us internally, and that we need to go about the business of fixing or alleviating our anxiety or our depression or our panic, rather than understanding that our body is just doing what it has been trained and programmed to do by our collective life experience. Our body is doing what it has been trained to do to keep us safe. Our body is doing what it automatically perceives it needs to do. And when I say body, I'm including the brain, okay? Our body is doing what it implicitly perceives it needs to do to protect us in accordance with our perception of the survival of our perceived self in the context of our life, what we perceive to be our life. Now, I know that's all a huge mouthful, but what I think is so important to talk about is that before you assume that your sensation of anxiety or your sensation of depression, your sensation of panic is a bad thing, or that it's a disease or a disorder, or that there is something wrong with you, be sure to develop the skills to be able to learn to observe the experience that you're having within your body so that you can learn to read, to decipher, to observe the automatic sensations of your mind and body that we call thoughts and feelings. And you can learn to understand what your body is telling you in the present moment about your perception and about your experience. There's really two important pieces to this to unravel. And this is where sort of really good therapy comes in, or really good self-reflection comes in. Our body and mind is just doing its best to tell us how it perceives the present moment in accordance with everything we've ever learned. And it's doing it automatically in the present moment. Your limbic brain is interacting with your physical body, your nervous system, your endocrine system, your musculoskeletal system, all the systems. And it's just acting in the present moment in accordance with self-preservation. It's automatic. It's our job to learn how to sit back and observe it and to understand the story that it is telling us in the moment. It does not mean that what it's telling us is correct or right. It just means it's providing us an automatic perception of how we're perceiving reality and how we're perceiving our experience within reality. The deep work is learning that all of us have been calibrated in a certain familial, cultural context You could say we've all been programmed and trained so that we don't understand and we don't know how to properly read, how to properly observe, how to reasonably or accurately observe and reflect upon what we're experiencing naturally in our body. So the work is in learning how to unravel the story that your body is automatically telling you in the present moment in accordance with your teaching and training and learning in your life. Meaning, your body is not giving you an automatic, accurate perception of reality. It's giving you an automatic perception of how you perceive yourself in the context of your experience based on what you have learned or what you have been taught. This is where the word trauma comes in. All of us have experienced our own poor teaching, which is trauma. All of us have been traumatized in a way that distorts the way that our mind and body automatically perceives the present moment. Where I'm going with this is you can learn how to recalibrate your mind and body through deliberate learning, through deliberate practice. This is where yoga comes in, it's where meditation comes in, it's where Tai Chi and Qigong, it's where focused learning comes in, it's where Jiu-Jitsu comes in. We can learn as adults to recognize that we are living within a body that has been imperfectly trained by our life experience. We have been distorted by generational trauma. We have been distorted by an industry that profits off of us believing that our emotions are diseases and disorders and sicknesses. We can learn to observe the sensations that we are experiencing in our mind and body, and we can actually learn to grow through our experience of depression or anxiety or panic, and we can learn to change the way that we are perceiving our story in the present moment. In doing so, we reprogram ourselves, we reprogram our perception. Rather than being programmed in accordance with generational trauma, in accordance with really poor sociocultural teaching, we can learn to program ourselves in accordance with more precise language, with more precise wisdom. In doing, we can learn to actually trust the automatic sensations of our mind and body as a source of knowledge and information and wisdom. The more we learn to teach and train and calibrate our mind and body in accordance with the collective wisdom that humanity has to offer, the more we can learn to trust our intuition, the more we can learn to trust our emotions. I disagree with people like Elon Musk, for example. I'm not in any way competing with his intellect, because I can't. But I disagree with the idea of a lot of scientists that our emotional system is just this byproduct of some bygone era, that it's just this reptilian brain that's useless. I actually believe the automatic process of the mind and the body is a neutral system that can be programmed in a way that is unbelievably sophisticated, that is unbelievably correct. It's that we have been improperly programmed by our life experience. We've been improperly programmed by generational trauma. We've been improperly programmed by the pharmaceutical industry. We've been improperly programmed by the idea that the sensations we experience in our body are a disease or a disorder or a problem, rather than maybe that we're living in a sick society and that we are living in a toxic environment, and our body is trying to tell us that we're living in a toxic environment. It's just we've been taught how to deny and to oppose and to resist and to avoid and to drug and drink and masturbate and eat away our emotions. So we deny our emotional experience instead of listening to it. We deny our physical sensational experience instead of observing it. I think it's really important to talk about this stuff out loud. I think it's really important to take responsibility for the fact that you are a conscious being within your body, and you can learn how to observe the experience of being in your body and your mind, and you can learn how to teach and train and hone yourself so that you can act automatically from a place of wisdom rather than from a place of fear, rather than from a place of bias, rather than from a place of trauma. And that makes you less susceptible to manipulation. It makes you less susceptible to political manipulation, to cultural manipulation. It makes you stronger. So things like meditation are really important for that reason. Things like yoga are really important for that reason. Things like simply learning how to sit back and observe, and how to teach and train and to hone your body and your mind is really, really important. And that's why I'm leaving this message. And that's all I got for the moment.